Leo, let me be honest with you right away. Someone's decision could soon bring legal consequences to your doorstep. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But the energy is moving fast, and the universe is asking you to pay close attention. Now, before you panic, take a breath. If you're here watching this, it means something inside you already knows. It means you're tuned in, even if you haven't fully understood why you felt drawn to click this video at this exact moment. And let me be clear, this isn't just another horoscope. This is a warning wrapped in divine timing. You didn't stumble here by accident. That's not how the universe works, especially not for a Leo. You are someone who was born to stand out, to lead, and to protect your pride. But even the strongest among us need reminders. And today, that reminder is loud. You may be caught in the ripple effect of someone else's shady decision, and if you're not alert, it could involve your name, your home, your peace. There's a reason your energy feels off lately. Maybe you've been snapping at people you love, feeling restless, sleeping poorly, or just sensing that something's wrong. That's your intuition. And you're right to trust it. Someone around you, someone close, may be entertaining a path that looks promising on the surface but hides serious consequences underneath. It could be a friend, a romantic partner, or even a family member. They might offer you a deal, a shortcut, an investment that sounds too good to be true. And it probably is. They might even use your trust to put something in your name, a signature, an account, a favor that turns into a problem. If you say yes too quickly, you won't just be tangled in their mess, you could be the one answering the door when the knock comes. I know that sounds heavy. But Leo, you're not here to be afraid. You're here to be aware and powerful. You're here to stay one step ahead of chaos, because your light isn't meant to be dimmed by someone else's darkness. This channel, Eternal Mindfulness, is more than a place to hear forecasts. It's where realignment begins. Where we strip away illusions and get honest about what Spirit is saying, not just to our signs, but to our souls. So I ask you, before we go deeper, check in with yourself. Why did this video call to you today? What's going on in your life that feels slightly off? And most importantly, what are you being asked to see and say no to before it's too late? Take a moment now to confirm your alignment. Comment below and say, I received this message at the right time. Let the universe hear you. Let this be your conscious agreement that you are listening and that you choose wisdom over risk. And let me just say, from the deepest part of my heart, thank you. Thank you for showing up today, for being open, for being part of this space. Every time you like, comment, or subscribe, you don't just support this channel, you anchor the message deeper into your own path. You become part of a collective shift that's bigger than any of us. Now, stay with me, because the revelations that follow will help you not only avoid the storm, but walk right into the blessing on the other side of it. Let's go. Leo, when your energy field is wide open as it often is for someone with a heart as bold as yours, your emotions aren't just your own. They become like a sponge, soaking in the residue of the rooms you walk through, the conversations you overhear, even the unspoken tension hanging in the background of someone else's silence. And when this emotional saturation builds up without release, it doesn't matter how strong, proud, or centered you usually are, things start to feel off. You lose your balance, not because you're weak, but because you're deeply attuned. Right now, You're walking through a vibrational zone where emotional static is louder than usual. The first card drawn tied to emotional frequency confirms it. High emotional charge. Sudden mood shifts. Feeling on edge, even when things look fine on the outside. Your heart is trying to process not just your story, but energetic data from people around you. And if you're not consciously filtering it, it starts to drive your reactions instead of your wisdom. This is where your fire sign nature meets its most fragile threshold. You're a natural leader. But leadership doesn't just mean speaking out, it also means knowing when to pause, when to feel through before you move. And truthfully, this isn't about avoiding emotion. It's about learning to hold space for it without letting it hijack your truth. Let's be real. How many times in the past week have you snapped when you didn't want to? How many times did you regret what you said only seconds after saying it? Those aren't failures, they're messages. Clues. You're not just feeling your feelings, Leo. You're absorbing noise. And it's distorting the signal of your inner compass. Think of your emotional body like a radio. When too many stations are trying to play at once, all you get is static. And yet, under the noise, your own music is still playing. The challenge now is to recalibrate. To return to your frequency. You don't need to shut down. You need to tune in. This is where something simple, like color, begins to speak louder than we often give it credit for. Royal blue. Deep, steady, calming. Not just a lucky color, but a vibration that invites your fire to cool, not to dim, but to become sustainable. A flame that doesn't burn out others, or you. Surround yourself with this shade. Wear it. Sleep in it. Visualize it wrapping around your aura like ocean light, protecting your center from unnecessary storms. And Leo, let's not forget, this is also a test of self-compassion. You don't need to have it all together every single moment. Even Jesus, in moments of deep strain, retreated to the quiet places. Not because he was weak, but because clarity doesn't live in the noise. It's in the stillness, in the space where your breath becomes your anchor, and your emotional chaos can finally soften into clarity. In your journey through leadership, identity, and pride, don't ignore the soft cues. The tired sigh. The sudden tightness in your chest. The weight behind your eyes. These aren't annoyances to push past, they are invitations. Your body, your emotions, your spirit, they are trying to tell you what your mind has been too busy to notice. So if you've been short-tempered, drained, or doubting yourself lately, you're not broken. You're just full. Too full. And it's time to pour out what doesn't belong to you. Breathe. Unclench. Reconnect. In the space between the reaction and the response, there is a quiet revolution waiting. And it starts with the simple act of noticing. You've already begun. Keep going. Leo, I want to speak to you now not just as someone who understands the stars, but as someone who has seen what happens when we ignore the quiet red flags. If something lately has felt too smooth, too shiny, or too lucky to be true, this part of the message is for you. And it's not coming from fear, it's coming from a place of wisdom earned through both observation and experience. You see, in the astrological world, when transits begin to touch the darker houses, like the 8th or 12th, things that have been hidden start surfacing. For you, this could be a person you trust, someone from your past, or someone who recently walked into your life with a promise that sounds golden. Maybe they're calling it an opportunity. Maybe they're flattering your ambition. Maybe they're saying, "It's just paperwork," or, "Your name is solid, it'll help move things faster." But behind the charm is something else, an agenda that could put your name at risk, even if your intentions are clean. Let me say this clearly, Leo, you don't need to do something wrong to be held responsible for it. Sometimes, all it takes is a signature. Just your name on the wrong line, and you find yourself being held accountable for choices that were never yours to begin with. That knock at the door? It's not always about what you did, it's about what you didn't say no to. And I get it. You're generous. You want to help. Maybe you don't want to seem difficult or distrustful. But helping someone else should never cost you your freedom, your peace, or your future. There is no reward in sacrifice when what you're sacrificing is your own foundation. In energy work, we often talk about resonance. Things that align with you will feel grounded, even when they challenge you. But things that deceive, they shimmer at the surface and unsettle you beneath. And here's where your discernment needs to kick in. If something feels off and you can't quite name it, that's your energetic field responding. Don't override it. Don't dismiss that tightness in your chest or the dream that left you anxious. Your intuition has been trying to speak, and this message is simply confirming what your inner compass already knows. Now more than ever, we need to slow down before saying yes. That's not fear, it's maturity. It's knowing that some doors aren't meant to be opened just because they're unlocked. They're tests, not gifts. Ask yourself, who's presenting this opportunity? What do they gain if you say yes? Would they carry the weight with you if something went wrong? And most of all, would they still offer it if your name had no power? You've worked too hard to build your reputation, to heal your path, to reclaim your voice. Don't give it away just because someone else isn't strong enough to stand on their own. You were not born to be collateral damage in someone else's shortcut. This is your permission to say no. Even to people you love. Especially when something feels fast, pressuring, or vague. Protecting your name is not selfish, it's spiritual hygiene. It's financial intelligence. It's emotional maturity. So if you're standing at a doorway right now, and someone's knocking with promises too polished to feel real, pause. Wait. Think. Your future is worth more than their urgency. And if something about this part of the message made your stomach drop or your heart skip, don't ignore it. That's confirmation. You're not being paranoid, you're being prepared. Let that preparation become power. Let that power become protection. You have every right to choose clarity over confusion, and to trust your instincts, even if no one else sees what you do. Especially then. Sometimes, the people who need the most protecting are the ones standing right next to us. And Leo, I know this part isn't easy to hear, especially for someone like you, fiercely loyal, deeply proud, and always carrying that natural instinct to lead, not control. But when someone under your roof or close to your heart starts walking toward danger without realizing it, the universe will nudge you. Not to interfere out of fear, but to intervene with wisdom. This energy we're in right now is subtle but sharp. It's the kind of influence that doesn't show up with fireworks. It shows up as a whisper. A new friend they won't introduce you to. A sudden defensiveness. A strange new interest in fast money or blurry lines. And while they may not be doing anything wrong yet, they're being pulled by something or someone that doesn't have their best interests at heart. What's dangerous here isn't just their decision. It's the ripple effect. Because sometimes, you get caught up in something simply by being silent. By trusting they'll figure it out. By not wanting to seem overbearing. But silence, when your gut is screaming, can cost more than discomfort. It can cost your peace, or worse, your name. This isn't about control. It's about presence. When we approach someone we love with calm, not criticism, they're more likely to open up. That's why a quiet one-on-one conversation is so powerful. Not a lecture. Just questions that make space. Try asking, how do you feel when you're around that person? Or, have you been feeling pressured lately? Ask gently. You're not looking for confession. You're listening for confusion. I've seen this pattern too many times. Someone young or vulnerable gets charmed by fast promises, a false sense of belonging, or the thrill of something new. And it doesn't take long for that path to turn. Maybe they're asked to sign something. Or they're used as a middleman. Or they let someone use your address, your account, your presence as a shield. It's not always malicious. But it's often careless. And you, Leo, are the one meant to notice the pattern before it becomes a problem. Not because you need to fix everything. But because your intuition is louder than most, and when something's off, you feel it in your bones before there's even evidence to explain why. What I know from experience and from walking with others through moments like Theseus, that prevention isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It looks like an unexpected dinner conversation. A shift in tone. A boundary re-established. Sometimes, just showing someone you're paying attention changes everything. They stop. They think. They realize they're not alone. That, too, is a form of protection. So if someone close to you has been acting differently, if your spirit has been restless without knowing why, if you've been brushing off concerns with, it's probably nothing, this is your moment to pause. To observe. To speak, not to accuse, but to understand. Your presence can reroute a situation without even needing proof. Because energy recognizes energy, and yours is powerful enough to disrupt danger before it fully forms. Don't wait until you have all the facts. Trust your inner pull. You don't need to make a scene, you just need to make space. And remember, people rarely admit when they're in over their head. But they'll often let their eyes tell you. Their tone. Their hesitation. If you're watching with love, you'll see it. Now is the time to choose awareness over assumption. Connection over comfort. And a simple act of paying attention might be the very thing that keeps both of you safe. So lean in. Listen. Let love take the lead, not fear. You're more powerful than you think, especially when you choose to show up with clarity and care. There's something magnetic about the energy of unexpected blessings. The kind that arrive quietly, but shift everything the moment they land. Right now, Leo, you're sitting on the edge of one of those moments. The vibration is moving, the cycle is aligning, and for some of you it's already begun. A return. A reward. A release. Something financial, tangible, needed. It might be a debt long overdue. A surprising business offer. A project you almost gave up on. suddenly showing signs of life. But here's the thing, divine timing doesn't just happen, it responds. And the universe is incredibly discerning with abundance. It doesn't throw gold into hands still tempted by shortcuts. It pours into vessels that have learned to say no when yes would be faster but not cleaner. That's where you come in. You see, money, true, aligned money isn't just about work. It's about energy. You don't earn it with sweat alone. You invite it with alignment. The kind of alignment that whispers, I'm ready to receive because I've done the inner work to handle what comes with it. And right now, the universe is watching how you respond to pressure. Will you take the bait of something that feels easy but isn't honest? Or will you pause, breathe, and trust that what's truly for you will arrive without the compromise? The numbers don't lie. 6 and 9, these two have been appearing over and over in your field. Together, they symbolize karmic rebalancing. 6 asks, what are you responsible for? 9 answers, and what are you finally ready to release? This is the energy of closed circles, of long-awaited restoration. But again, only for those who are willing to rise to their part in the exchange. This is a test of integrity, not just opportunity. Because the truth is, Leo, you're not just being offered money. You're being offered a new relationship with money. One where you don't need to chase it, manipulate it, or fear its absence. Instead, you learn how to hold it from a place of power, not performance. And as much as we talk about mindset, let's not forget the body plays a role here too. Emotional congestion doesn't just sit in your heart, it stores itself in your organs, especially the liver. That's the center of anger, resentment, old frustration, especially when you feel like life hasn't been fair. So consider this a small but meaningful act of devotion to your own energy. Lighten up the white starches, increase the leafy greens. You're not just feeding your body, you're detoxing years of suppressed fire that's been keeping your receiving channel blocked. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming prepared. For the version of you who no longer tolerates half-hearted offers. For the kind of wealth that doesn't take you out of alignment but roots you deeper into who you really are. If you felt that money has always slipped just out of reach, it wasn't because you weren't worthy. It's because the energy around it still needed clearing. That's what this moment is about. A reset. A new wave of abundance is coming, but it will only flow to the parts of you that are ready to carry it with clarity and conviction. So ask yourself, not just, what do I want to receive, but what kind of person am I becoming as I wait? Because your answer will shape not just the timing but the size, the depth, and the sustainability of what's coming next. And it's coming. Don't doubt that. Just stay open enough to meet it the right way. You've been carrying more than you realize. And lately, it's been showing up in small ways that are easy to dismiss. Snapping at someone you love, feeling oddly drained even after a full night's sleep, reacting too quickly to things that wouldn't normally get under your skin. But those aren't just moods, Leo. They're signs. Subtle indicators that your energetic field is overloaded, and not all of that weight is yours to bear. This kind of fatigue, the kind that's rooted in the soul, not the body, doesn't always come from stress or a bad day. It comes from overexposure to environments that don't match your frequency. It comes from being too open to the world around you without enough boundaries to filter what comes in. And for someone like you, whose natural presence draws attention, energy, even admiration, it's easy to forget that not everything offered to you should be received. Sometimes, the burnout comes from being the one everyone leans on. The one who stays strong, even when they're quietly unraveling inside. And when you don't carve out sacred space to return to yourself, to clear what's been clinging to your aura, it starts to cloud your thinking. You say things you don't mean. You withdraw when you really want connection. You react instead of respond. And none of that makes you broken. It just makes you human and overdue for a reset. Energetically, this is a moment for you to come back to center. Not by pushing harder or pretending everything's fine, but by choosing stillness. Just 5 minutes in the morning. Eyes closed, one hand over your heart, the other over your belly. Inhale slowly. Exhale even slower. And with each breath, repeat quietly to yourself, I am safe. I am protected. I am returning to my truth. These aren't just words theory anchors. They help your nervous system recalibrate. They let your energy know it's okay to release what it's been holding. If you've never used scent as a clearing tool, now is the time. Burning white sage or Palo Santo in the evening, especially around your bed or favorite resting space, works like a spiritual rinse. It doesn't erase your emotions, it makes space for them to flow without flooding you. You'll feel the difference in how you sleep. In the silence between your thoughts. In how quickly your body stops bracing for impact when there's nothing to fear. And here's one more practice, one I've shared with those walking through emotionally charged seasons: silence. When unsettling news finds you, when gossip tries to pull you in, when someone else's chaos comes knocking, choose not to answer, at least for the first 24 hours. It's not avoidance. It's energetic discipline. Because your first reaction is almost never your truest response. When you let the initial wave pass, you keep yourself from being swept up in a storm that was never yours to begin with. Returning to your center isn't a luxurious survival. And Leo, you owe it to yourself to be whole, not just functional. To be clear, not just busy. To be present, not just performing strength for others. Your inner world deserves the same level of attention you so easily give to those around you. So give yourself permission to pause. To cleanse. To breathe. You've been giving so much. Let this be your time to receive clarity, peace, and the quiet strength that only comes when we reconnect with the truest parts of who we are. Your soul doesn't need fixing. It needs space to speak. Listen. And trust what you hear. Thank you for staying with me until this moment. If you're still here, it means something in your soul recognized a truth that couldn't be ignored. Maybe it was a quiet whisper, a sudden pull in your chest, or a subtle nod from the universe that this message today was meant for you. And it was. Not because you're broken or lost, but because you are ready. Ready to stop circling the same questions. Ready to step into clarity, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. Ready to own your choices, protect your energy, and define your life not by what's happened, but by what happens next. There is a moment in every journey when we realize the answers aren't out there. They're within. The role of any guide, astrologer, healer, or messenger isn't to tell you what will happen. It's to remind you that you are the one who decides what happens next. You are not a victim of fate. You are the co-creator of your life. And Leo, your ability to choose light over fear, boundaries over guilt, patience over pressure, that is your superpower. You don't need permission to change your story. But if you were waiting for a sign, let this be it. Place your hand over your heart for a second. Take a slow breath. Say this to yourself, quietly or out loud: I choose light. I choose truth. I choose peace. And mean it. Say it as many times as you need, until your nervous system believes it, until your soul softens into it. This is how transformation begins, not in a big dramatic moment, but in the tiny sacred act of choosing differently than you did yesterday. I want you to know this: whatever crossroads you're at right now, you are not alone. Whatever fog you've been walking through, the clarity is already on its way. All you need is the courage to pause long enough to feel it, and the willingness to walk forward even if your voice trembles. Now, I want to hear from you. What part of this message resonated most with you? What are you committing to do differently this week? Let's turn the comments section into a space of intention and shared healing. Write "I choose light" or 777 if you're ready to align with the best version of yourself. Or simply tell me where in your life you're being called to pay more attention. You never know who you'll inspire just by sharing. And if you know someone who's been struggling, confused, or carrying more than they admit, send this to them. Sometimes we don't need advice. We just need to feel seen. And if this message helped you feel seen, I'm honored. Don't forget to subscribe to Eternal Mindfulness so you never miss the guidance that's meant for you. Every like, every comment, every share deepens our connection and helps this community grow into the sanctuary it's meant to be, for you, for others, for all of us who are learning to walk with more presence, purpose, and peace. And remember, you don't have to be perfect to begin. You just have to be willing. The universe doesn't choose the flawless, it chooses the open-hearted. And right now, in this moment, you are exactly where you need to be. I'll see you in the next message. But for now, take this energy with you. Let it protect you. Let it guide you. Let it remind you, your life is sacred. And you have always held the power.